Good afternoon. Today's the 20th of March and I'm in the centre of Winchester today. Rather appropriately, this is the ITV region that the programme I'm going to talk about today was actually based in. At the time it was TVS, and so we're going to talk about C.A.T.S eyes. C.A.T.S eyes, or rather C.A.T.S eyes, with a dot after each one of the initials, was broadcast between 1985 and 1987 on the ITV network and made by the Southern Region broadcaster TVS, and it starred Leslie Ash, Rosalyn Landor for the first series, Tracy Louise Ward for the second and third series, Jill Gascoigne and Dom Warrington. The idea behind C.A.T.S eyes was a little bit crazy, to be honest. It was about the fact that there was a covert branch of the Home Office based somewhere in the southeast England, around the Thames estuary, called Covert Activities Thames Section, or C.A.T.S. All of their operatives were female, and for the first series they masqueraded as a private detective agency called Eyes, hence C.A.T.S eyes. And the person overseeing from the Home Office was a kind of sort of slightly shady, typical sort of spy type person called Nigel Beaumont, who was played by Dom Warrington. In the first series, there are three people in the Eyes outfit. Frederica, or Fred Smith, played by Leslie Ash. Prunella Standfast, played by Rosalyn Landor. And in the first episode, the third person in their outfit gets killed off. Is a character called Jenny. And she is replaced in that episode by Maggie Forbes, who was a character from the earlier Thames series called The Gentle Touch. But she was brought back for this series, and she's played as The Gentle Touch by Jill Gascoigne. C.A.T.S eyes is a fascinating series, not so much for the plot lines and things like that. They're kind of along the lines very much of something like The Professionals or The Avengers or Dempsey and Makepeace. But really for the fact that TVS of all people made it, they weren't known for making things like this. The fact that it's all female, so it's a bit like Charlie's Angels, but kind of not really. It's not nearly as glamorous as that. It's a sort of interesting, look at what was happening in the mid-1980s. The sort of place where people have weird haircuts and bizarre clothes, listen to over-the-top music and drive around in white Ford Escort RS turbos. That's the sort of thing we're looking at, although it's a little bit more classy than it first appears. One of the things I like about C.A.T.S eyes is the fact that it had a fair degree of influence from earlier series that some of the people behind it had worked on. Terence Feely, who created it, had worked on The Avengers and The New Avengers. Some of the episodes are written by people written for The Professionals, and some of the directors had even worked on The Avengers, people like James Hill. So it has a little bit more of a kind of interesting look to it than Dempsey and Makepeace. It was generally a bit more like the Sweeney, a bit more conventionally directed. This is a bit more interesting to look at from a sort of visual point of view. So enough about that. Let's get on to some of the cars that were used in the series. And as always, I've got my piece of paper here, which tells me all the things that were used in the series. So if my eyes go off the screen, it's not because I'm not wanting to talk to you, it's because I need to refer to this piece of paper. So in the first series, which was broadcast in 1985, Prunella Standfast, she had a Ford Escort Mark III 1.6i Cabriolet that was B348AOO. Fred, or Frederica Smith, she had a Fiesta XR2 That was A38 TJN. And Maggie had a Ford Escort Mark III 1.6 gear. That was B997YEV. Now, all those cars were on loan from Ford and they were press cars. The Fiesta in particular was featured in the June 1984 edition. I think it was a magazine called Motorsport, if my memory serves me correctly. Every car that I found that's been used in C.A.T.S has been scrapped, so I'm not going to speculate as to whether or not they exist, because they probably don't anymore, which is a shame, but there we go. Also, wherever you know, Nigel Beaumont, he didn't drive his own car in the first series so much, but he had a sort of government limousine he was taken around in. It was a Daimler DS40, and that's 570 HLX. One of the things I found interesting about the first episode of the character of Jenny was that she drove a Talbot Matra Rancho, which is probably the first time we've ever heard that mentioned in a video on the whole of YouTube. But they were very rare, based originally on the Simca 1100. But when Talbot bought Chrysler Europe, or Peugeot bought Chrysler Europe, I should say, they brought the Talbot name in for the old Simca and Hillman and Chrysler badge cars. They called it the Talbot Simca Rancho, and it was basically a Simca 1100 that had been around for years with new fiberglass bodywork on the back. It's basically what we call a lifestyle SUV these days. It's front wheel drive. It's got I think a 1.3 or 1.5 engine, and no off-road capability really, but just an interesting car for one of those characters to have. And it only appears in one shot, one episode, but I think it's wonderful anyway. And if you want to look at it on the database, be my guest, it's A916KLN. I'm not sure if it's a press car or not, but 84 is the last year for these, so I don't really know too much more about it, but it's interesting to see one of those nevertheless. For the second series, they got new cars. Prunella Standfast was replaced by Tessa Robinson, who was played by Tracy Louise Ward, and she had a Ford Escort RS Turbo in azure blue. Now, as far as I know, the RS Turbos used in the second and third series of C.A.T.S were the only ones that were in azure blue. There were no other RS Turbos painted of that colour. That was C221 HVW. In fact, all the Fords used in the second series had consecutive number plates. So the RS Turbo, what was white, was used by Fred Smith. That was C220 HVW. And Maggie had a Ford Sierra gear. I'm not sure the engine size of that. That was C222 HVW. Nigel had a Jaguar XJS. That wasn't supplied by Ford, obviously. That was PKR626W, so it was an 81 model. In the third series, they updated the cars basically, so there's not much variation in this, although by late 1986, Ford had moved from the Escort Mark III to the Mark IV, which was pretty much a sort of a cosmetic facelift, although there were some engineering changes. So Tess and Fred, they both got RS Turbos again. Tessa's one was blue, Fred's one was white, and they were D974 RVW and D975 RVW. Now, I can't find D974 RVW in the database for DVLA, but I can find D975 RVW. I don't know why that is. Somebody maybe in the comments tell me why that is, but that's what they were anyway. Maggie had another Sierra gear. It's wrongly listed as a 87 gear, but actually by 87 they brought up the Mark II Sierra. This is still a Mark I, so it's a 1986 Sierra gear, and it's D80 RVW. Nigel Beaumont, he had various cars, but the most prominent one, and possibly this is the only time you'll ever hear anybody speak about it on the internet because nobody else seems to want to talk about this, was a 1986 Rover 820. It was registered in July 1986, and so it's one of the first ones ever made, and it looks very much like this was a press car from Austin Rover, which was C824ARW. I would say that's the most common car used in the series. I don't know why you had one of those. You might as well just have had a Granada, and there was a very, very early Granada Scorpio in the first series. I think it was probably the one used in the launch film, an episode called Frightmare, that was filmed in April 85, and I think the car came out the same month. And I've checked the registration number, which is a Ford press plate, and it was registered in April '85, so it would have been brand new at the time, which is interesting. So yes, I think that's most of the interesting vehicles used in C.A.T.S size anyway. So I hope you found that video interesting. Sorry it's been a bit longer than I planned. I got a bit carried away with talking about Matra-Talbot ranchos, or Talbot Matra ranchos, I think they were called, because I used to think those were great when I was younger. But anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to leave a like and to comment below. My website is www.lloyd@vehicleconsultant.co.uk. And please use the contact me page if you wish me to source a car for you to get in touch. And my Facebook page is facebook.com/Lloyd@Vehicle Consulting. Thank you very much indeed, and I'll see you in the next video.